Good morning and welcome back to the Little French Homestead. If you're new to my channel today, my name is Sherry. It is 10:34 and we have a lot to do today. Now what I'm going to be making is some Asian style meatballs. I'm going to be making some more bread. We are completely 100% out of the sandwich bread. I'm also going to try to see if I can do some other bread items with this particular bread. This will be the first time I'm going to do that. And one of my daughters has absolutely requested one of her favorite meals for today. Now, just for all of you to be aware, we live in Florida, so today is last day of summer. Everybody goes back to school tomorrow. Yay! Mommy is thrilled. They are thrilled, believe it or not. My twins are going into 10th grade. They've already done the circuit tour of the school with some of their friends who are just now getting ready to go into high school. Last night we hosted a little get together with 8 different, total it was 8 different kids. They did s'mores and had a blast, little end of summer hoorah. We had leftover fireworks, so we had some of those. And now it's time for business. I am going to be making everything here. I will list down below in the description box. But after this here, I will more than likely go into a voiceover, just because we have washing machines going. Girls are running back and forth to their rooms. My husband's not up yet, so I know he'll need to come into the kitchen to grab something to eat a little later. But let's get going because it's going to be busy. Like I said, besides the breads, I will be making other recipes and stuff, and I'm going to bring you along for that. Everything will be listed below, so let's get to it. All right, so here we are in the kitchen. I got really mad at myself because I thought I went and pressed play, and I was going to do a quick playback to see the meatballs and how the video looked. Come to find out, I never hit play. And I also, too, at that time frame, forgot to go ahead and warm up the oven. So got a little bit ahead of myself because I was excited to do all of this cooking. I went and had to now take out the baking sheets because they were now hot and the oven wasn't quite ready yet for what I wanted to do. I will give you the meatloaf recipe down below, but it's pretty still just a basic meatloaf recipe, but I did not add the Italian seasoning in it because I wanted to turn it into an Asian style and not really an Italian style dish. So I moved on, and now I am making my famous macaroni and cheese. My family absolutely loves this particular recipe. I did make a more step-by-step in-depth video, which I will link either in the description below or I'll pop it at the end of the video so you can go a little bit more in-depth on it. But I've tried other mac and cheese recipes, and I'm not saying like the Kraft mac and cheese because we all love that stuff, or the Kraft and Shells with the Velveeta, but I'm saying any other recipes that involved homemade mac and cheese. My family has always then requested me to go back and continue to make this one. So I will again link it down below, but I will give you just a little rough idea of what goes on. So obviously you're going to make your roux. After you go ahead and make your roux, which is same parts butter and flour, before I add the milk, I would add some dry thyme, some cayenne pepper, and it does call for white pepper, but you don't have to. You can just use regular black pepper. Usually in a traditional roux, you want to use white pepper because then it doesn't show all the little black flakes, but this isn't really to impress anybody. except my family. So what I do is still just use the black. You're going to add 1 cup of milk to that. You want to mix it up really thoroughly. Then once that is all mixed together, you are going to add then the remaining 2 cups of milk. Now, I have in the past, if I run out of milk or I'm running super low, I've used half and half or even heavy cream. It tastes really, really good either way. Once you go ahead and add all that to it, you want to just bring the sauce to a nice simmer. When you do that, you are going to add some nice nutmeg. It's really like of a pinch. So I just have some whole nutmegs and I just scrape it on my file, my grater, and put that in there. You're going to also get some Worcestershire sauce and some salt. You want to be able to simmer this to medium-low heat until it's thickened, which can be about 8 minutes. After you do that, you want to add your Dijon mustard. This gives it that nice little tang that is absolutely wonderful. You want to remove this from the heat because if you don't, your cheese will then end up becoming gritty or a little oily and kind of stringy, and that's not what you want. The cheese actually calls for cheddar, but I am doing a little bit of mozzarella, and then I have the cheddar Monterey mix. You can just use 3 cups straight cheddar cheese, but everybody in my family knows that I usually use the cheese on hand. I've even gone as fancy as using like Gouda and like a really extra sharp. Sometimes I've even used horseradish cheese. Everything is all a go. It depends on your family and how tangy and spicy you can do it. You can even add jalapeno cheese to it. After you want to give that a really good mix and make sure you incorporate everything all together, then my noodles are already done and you're just going to add that cheese sauce on there. Now also too, you want to make sure as you're stirring the cheese sauce that you continuously do it because you don't want to burn that sauce, because then if you add that burnt part into your macaroni and cheese, you're going to end up tasting that. So you want to just be very, very careful on that. I did get a little sieve burn on the bottom of it, but you really can't tell too much to it. Once you go ahead and thoroughly go ahead and mix that all in, what you're also going to do is top it with some panko breadcrumbs and some butter. Get that butter nice and melted, about a tablespoon of butter, and about a half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. Now, you can use any breadcrumbs you have. Doesn't specifically have to be that. There was one time we were completely out of breadcrumbs, and I seriously only had like a couple of slices of bread. I went and grabbed those crispy fried onions, and I added that to the top to it. I've also added Ritz crackers and or saltine crackers. So use your imagination, but it does call for panko. You're going to go ahead and add a little bit more cheese to that. Add those breadcrumbs. Now, I am doing per the recipe here just so you can see what is going on. But our family really, really loves that crispy, golden brown texture that the breadcrumbs give. I normally add way more than what you see here, but I was trying not to overindulge and just do per recipe. But it is absolutely delicious. I am going to link this down below for you, and I will also link the video. So if you want to go ahead and watch it, you can, to get the exact measurements and on also too on how I make them. You're going to put that in the oven at about 400 degrees, and you want to go ahead and keep it till about 15 to 20 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. Those were the delicious meatballs. We had actually these today for dinner, and they were good. There goes the mac and cheese. You really want to make sure you get a nice golden brown. So what I ended up doing is putting it on broil once everything is cooked. So then that way when I take it out here and I show you, look at that. That is absolutely delicious, and I am super happy with that particular batch. And just so you know, there's not a drop left in the house. That whole thing went. Now again, my husband went to work last night, so he did take a bunch. All right, so now moving on. We are going to go ahead and make the Asian sauce for these meatballs. Now, I did make 20 meatballs, so that gave us 4 for everybody, which is really not a lot, but that's really only I had enough for meatballs, the ground beef, to come through. Now, you can go ahead and make the ground beef, but you can also use ground turkey or ground chicken for a healthier option. But I just had the ground beef, and that's what I used. You can also use frozen. Sorry, I have a cat that's meowing in the background. You can go ahead and certainly use a package of pre-made frozen ones. That is completely up to you. I just had this, so I wanted to use it all up. So in this particular cup, we are going to be using some wholesome sauce, soy sauce, the last little bit of my toasted sesame seed oil, which I actually thought I was completely out because I had a recipe not too long ago that needed it, and I thought I was out. And I found some. That's why you try to shop your pantry. I went and had to buy some more rice vinegar because I was out of that. And then to the seasonings, it's going to be some ground ginger, ground onion, and some garlic powder. Some onion powder, sorry. And for a little bit of kick, you can add some red pepper flakes, or if you really wanted to, you could add like a little bit of sriracha. It does call for some green onions, and I totally did not have any green onions, and I totally forgot to go ahead and I have dried green onions, and I forgot that. Once you go ahead and throw that in a crock pot for about an hour and a half on high and about 2 to 3 hours on low, comes out delicious. So now moving on. We are going to be making at least a dozen eggs for some egg salad. So for lunches this week, for me and my husband, since finally the kids are now at school, I don't have to worry about what's for lunches. That is what I am doing. So I've got the eggs sitting in an ice bath. I did forget them for about an hour, which was completely hilarious. My kids ended up wanting to have some pizza, and in a little bit you're gonna find out that I caved and made the frozen pizza that I was trying to save for this Friday's pizza night, because every Friday night in our house is pizza night, and I wanted to save these pizzas, but I had 2 starving children in the house that needed to have pizza. So there I am getting it out. It was actually really good. Once I got this dough, now you see this dough sitting here. This is the first round of dough. I actually made 3 batches of bread today. And I am just making sandwich loaf here. And then I'm going to be making some buns. Now, it is hilarious. I don't know what I was thinking. My house at this time was super hot. And I made these buns small. And when they got proofed, they were huge. Well, I had sat down for an hour because the bread, according to the directions, said 45 minutes to an hour to reproof. So that's what I was waiting for. And I'm like, well, since I have all of this wonderful time, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to enjoy my pizza. And we're just going to hang out a little bit as a family and chit chat and talk a little bit about the girls and what their plans are for the next couple of days when school starts. And boy, I totally spaced what time it was after that. So these things got huge. I will show them to you in a little bit, but we found it actually hilarious how big that they got. Well, after making these, now I think I made 8 of these, and they're just little regular hoagie, like buns, not hoagie buns, I'm sorry, but like regular round, it could be like, hamburger buns. And I didn't do anything fancy to them, just put them right in the oven and cooked them up. And I did divide them into 2 4-packs so we can have them. I did have some salad. I had some egg salad on that today. Now, after we got done doing lunch, I was in the process of going to be making my next batch of dough because then that beeped as well. And I went to take this pot out of the oven, the dishwasher, and it was super, super hot. It was like burning my hands. Now, for this particular one, I'm going to be making, for the first time ever, bagels. We ran out of just regular store-bought bagels. Now, my family loves bagels. I bought 4 packs of bagels like 2.5 weeks ago, and they are all gone. Now, I know that the girls are at school, so a lot of my food will be staying here in the house. I won't be going as much because they're at school eating school lunches. But when I went to go and sell them that, ideas of what you want me to do, because I did look up this particular bread recipe can handle so many versatile recipes, and I was told to make some bagels. Well, it wasn't told, I was asked. And so I was like, well, sure, I will give it a try. I have no problem with that. And so I went and did that. Now the stove is on. That pot is getting the water up to a boil, because that's what you're going to need to have, boiling water. Now, once you form these bagels, what you're going to then do is bring it over to the side, and you're going to get that, you're going to put the bagels in the pot of boiling water. Once you do that, it's going to be for 1 minute on each side. Once you go ahead and do that, there's a wire rack that's right behind me that I will take off those particular items, put them on the side, and then I'm going to go ahead with the bagels and dip them in the hot boiling water, transfer them over to a wire rack. I've got, I think, a piece, either it's parchment paper underneath or just a towel. And I'm just going to let them drip dry for a few minutes. And then when I am ready, the oven is already set. And the oven is at 375, I believe. And you're going to cook those for about 25. It's at 400 degrees. And it will go for about 20 minutes. What I also did too is did a nice little egg wash on those. And when I had done my egg wash, I had then had egg whites, because you just want to use the yolks. So I had some egg whites set aside. When you go ahead and brush them on there, this is the time frame to go ahead and use any sesame seeds, or if you had any everything bagel seeds, that's the time, or you can just leave them plain. I only had sesame seeds, so that's what they all had, is sesame seeds. Now I am going to go ahead and use my scoop. I have this wired spoon to go ahead and turn them over, and then go ahead and take them out. Again, you want little water on there. Then I think I sprayed down the pan, but I'm not sure. You put the bagels then on that, put it in the oven, and wait. You're going to do an internal temp of 200 degrees. And then once that is done, you're going to allow them to cool on the wire rack. So finally, I'm now going to be working on that egg salad. Now, all I did, like I said, was put them in an ice bath. You boil them for about 10 minutes. Put them then directly into an ice bath. Should leave them for about a half an hour, but I accidentally left them for an hour. Now, this egg salad is absolutely delicious. Now, we are going to go ahead and add. And this is, I just add from my heart, and then I taste test as you go along. If you want to follow an exact recipe, I can link one down below, but it may be a little bit different than what I've used. But I like to use some mayonnaise, some dill relish, just any kind of dill relish. The squeeze bottle is the one that I have. Or if you want, you can even cut up some pickles, dice them up nice and fine, and add a little bit of pickle juice to this. That's pretty much almost the same thing. A nice spicy mustard, though. I have this mustard that I usually get from Publix. It's called Mike's Spicy Mustard. But there was another one from New Hampshire that I used to get at a restaurant. It's called Top Dog Mustard, and it is superb. I loved using that for this particular recipe and the mac and cheese, but unfortunately, I didn't have any. You're going to add some pepper, some salt, some parsley, paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder. And then the most fabulous secret ingredient you could have ever had would be your celery salt. Now, I was born and raised in New England. We use celery salt on quite a bit of things. This in particular was one of them. Nice little bit of celery salt on this, or even a potato salad or macaroni salad. But another way that I absolutely love celery salt is on a hot dog. If you've never had that, you need to go ahead and give it a try. In fact, why don't you link down in the comments below and tell me what your secret recipe is, or your special ingredient that you like to make for egg salad. I bet you everybody has a little something different that was passed down from generation to generation. But this came out delicious. My husband and I actually had a little bit of it for lunch today. And I made some sandwiches with my homemade bread and a little bit of that between the bread, little bag of chips. This was superb. Can't wait to have some more when I make another batch. But as we move it on, we've got the bagels that came out. They came out absolutely divine. My son has already eaten 3 of these bagels, and my daughter has already eaten 2, just so you know. This is beautiful. So I am now here just taking the temp, just making sure that that is 200 degrees. Now, look at that crisp on the bottom. That was awesome. There is a little bit of crust from the egg yolk, which is not a big deal. I lay all of these on here. Now, this first pan that I'm taking right now is much cooler than the other one. I have not yet set the other one on the rack. I just transferred everything over to that side of the stove so we can get the other side of the stove working for us while we are still making everything. And then, since we still had 5 egg whites, my wonderful daughter Abby, who absolutely loves baking, and she's being a real good cook in her own right, had decided that she would like to make some macaroons. Now, these are a French cookie, and she has been making these now. This is, I think, like her fifth or sixth time in 2 weeks. We completely all out of my powdered sugar that I just bought like 3 weeks ago. I'm all out of something else too that she was telling me. She did want to make these green. I asked her if she wanted to use some like peppermint to give it the taste with the green, but she also wanted to bring some of these to school for her friends. So at the last minute, she decided not to. We brought a batch over to my mom and dad, which they absolutely loved. And she did have a few little ones that cracked, and I just told her that's fine. Those are mommy's tastings. And we all had a little laugh. She has been doing wonderful. I could link the recipe, but it's actually from a book that I got her and her sister for Christmas a few years ago. So I don't think that it's in there, but I mean, any macaron recipe you can look up and it would tell you exactly the same thing. She doesn't like to really go ahead and put stuff in the oven, especially if it's already preheated on. So she asked if I'd be willing to help. I said, of course. This is me now changing halfway through. These took about 15 minutes to bake. So at a 7.5 minutes, I rotated to make sure we got really good at it. And then once they were fully baked, we took them out of the oven, and she needed to make sure that they allowed to cool for at least 45 minutes to an hour. So at that time frame, gave me a little bit time to work on another project. So in the process of asking my family what else they would like me to try with the bread dough, cinnamon rolls was right at the top of the list. So that's exactly what I did. As you see here, I have some butter melted. It's about a half a cup of butter. And I've got about 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon. But again, I just usually measured by my heart. And they wanted 1 cup of packed brown sugar. However, I just spooned it all out and spread it all over there with my hands. I was not trying to get technical, and I actually think that because some of my stuff was still in the the dishwasher, I just didn't feel like unloading it, and it's not like this needed to be measured out precisely. Once we go ahead and did all that, I was smoothing it over with my fingers, and there's a little slice right in front of me where I totally forget. And as I was rolling everything all up, that part, after I cut everything, had 0 seasoning mixture in it at all. So I unrolled it, slathered a little bit of butter, added its own little cinnamon and brown sugar to that, and rolled it all up. That ended up being our taste tester once everything was proofed. Now, what you want to do is, after you've spread this all out, you do want to kind of get it into more of a square, because that's how you're going to be rolling it. Now, I rolled it from right to left, and after you do that, you do want to go ahead and get a really sharp knife. I used my serrated bread knife. Since I'm going to be cutting bread anyway, I might as well go ahead and get that out. So once we go ahead and got that out, I lined them up all in one row. Then I cut them in half, and then I moved them over and I cut them in half. And I was able to get about 16 out of that, which was pretty good. They were all about a 1/2 inch, which is about right, because you want a nice, big, fluffy cinnamon roll. You do want to go ahead and allow them to rise for 30 minutes. I did go a little bit higher because now this part of the day, if you had seen me right before I put the cookies in, I had put our dinner in the oven just to get reheated because my husband was getting ready to go to work. So we have now technically been off and on our feet since 10:30 this morning, and this was probably maybe like 4:30, quarter of 5. So I was getting pretty tired, but I was also shutting the stove off when I really didn't need it to really keep the heat from blasting into our house. It was already 81 degrees in there, so I was trying really not to kill us by continuously having it on when I didn't need it in between bacon times. So they didn't get as puffy as I would have liked, but they still turned out absolutely delicious. I keep seeing these pictures from on TV when they have these huge, big monster cinnamon rolls. And I don't know why I was thinking that I was going to have some of those, but I certainly did not. But they did all come out really, really good, and they were very, very delicious. Now, I was able to get 7 in one and 9 in another, with one being eaten as a special treat. And I put the one that's got 7 in the refrigerator, so then that way we can go ahead and have that for next weekend for like a Saturday morning little breakfast. This was the batch. Now see, you can see that they did puff up a little bit, but not as much as I liked. And that other last loaf of bread didn't also thoroughly rise again like I was hoping, but it's still okay. Everything's still edible. And that's exactly what we did. We just moved on. It may not look pretty. It may not be puffy, but boy, it was still very, very delicious. So now she's filling up the macaroons, and she decided to still do green filling. I said, well, let's do a bit of a darker green so it would give a little contrast. And of course, it was her decision because it was her cookies, and that's exactly what she chose. But I tell you what, as soon as you take one bite of those, they are literally melt in your mouth fantastic. So I can't fault her for that. She's doing an awesome job. I think next time we're going to have to get her some better equipment to do the frosting and stuff like that. She was having a tough time trying to get the frosting out. Now, she did bring, I want to say like 12 to school, and I took 8 to go to work with, and the rest were for everybody to nibble on. She did not want to bring the broken ones, like I said, to school, so the rest of the family was very happy to enjoy. All right, so now that the cinnamon rolls are in the oven, they will be baking at 350 for about 25 minutes or so. And I think mine had to go for almost a complete 30. Every oven is different, so you want to make sure that you get the right temp on it. Now, I'm making the cream cheese filling right here. So I ended up doing a double batch. And I did realize toward the end that it was a little too much, but it's not a big deal. The next time I make cinnamon rolls, I will pull that cream cheese out of the freezer. I will warm it up, and we will just use that to dip. But you're going to go ahead for a single recipe. Will be 4 ounces of cream cheese, 3 tablespoons of butter, 1.5 cups powdered sugar, about a half a teaspoon of vanilla, and about 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. Now, I did not have the hand mixer for this, as it was in the dishwasher, so I was like, hey, I got an immersion blender. So that's exactly what I did. I decided to go ahead and use the immersion blender on that, and that actually came out beautiful, nice, smooth, and silky. I was beyond belief. So now after those have chilled out for about a half an hour or so, we went and frosted this whole batch, and this was, like I said, absolutely delicious. So this is all of the bread making that is done, and I had a wonderful, fantastic time doing this. But by the time I was done, I got cleaned all up, and after I put everything away, bagged it all, marked it all, it was like 7:45, and I started at 10:30. And yes, I had several breaks, but really by 5 o'clock, that was kind of like the last little bit, only because I was just waiting for the bread to get done and to cool down, these things to cool down, so then I can go ahead and relax. So I got done with that, put everything all away. I am cleaning the kitchen all down to get it all ready for next business day of cooking and having fun with the family. I do have a lot of dishes there. We do have chores in our house, and this week starts my son at doing all of the dishes. Now, I did be nice and started load, and that is done. He just needs to start this load, and he does so with grace and a big smile on his face. If you believe that, you can keep laughing. So anyway, so he does all that, and I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come into my home today. If you like this video, please go ahead and place a comment down below, give it a thumbs up, share with family and friends, especially those ones who enjoy baking or nice long cooking days like this. I mean, I have several people that I love watching because it's their cooking and I'm just watching them, and they're making their messies in the kitchen and stuff. So I also do enjoy watching other people. So if you enjoy watching me, you can place a comment down below saying, I love watching you cooked everything, and I'm glad I didn't have to do that. I am okay with something like that. It's part of life, you know. Everybody does a lot of cooking, and everybody's got to clean up. Some of us post and show everybody our headaches, and some of us don't. Bless those ones that don't. But again, like I said, share with family and friends. But most importantly, go ahead and subscribe. You want to go ahead and click that notification button just so you can receive all of my latest and newest content when I decide to drop it. Normally, it is Tuesdays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I'm so sorry again. It's too late at night. Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, usually around 3 p.m., I try to drop. And sometimes I will try and drop the shorts if I have a short video that I like for you to see, usually around noontime on the opposite days that I drop a video. I will also pop up a few videos just so you can see anything else until my next upload. But again, thank you so much, and keep on cooking. Bye.